A few decades ago, I thought computers were the ticket. For me, it was the ticket out of doing manual labor for the rest of my life. So I went and, as they say, I learned computers. I learned software development in DOS, MS-DOS. Y'all remember that? I dabbled a little bit in assembly code and C++, but later I learned Visual Basic and Windows programming, which led me to some exciting job opportunities. I was such a computer nerd that I carried this right here in my pocket. It's the American Standard Code for Information Interchange, or ASCII chart. Half of these codes right here I had memorized. I would just do things like go up into Circuit City and pull up a DOS prompt and start making directories that were difficult to access. Like you can use altcode 255, which is a null. It just looks like a space, but it ain't, because a space is ASCII character 32 right there, see? Oh, also 32 happens to be the difference between each capital and lowercase letter. Capital A is 65, lowercase a is 97. And that's how uppercase and lowercase functions work in programming.
Are you not entertained?
Crafsman, why you going on about this, man?
You a nerd.
I'm about to unsubscribe because I feel like I'm coming at this whole thing with a unique perspective. I'm from that sliver of time in there where my generation knows more about computers than the people before us and the people after us, all right? I had to help my parents and aunts and uncles and family with their PC problems, and I still know more about PCs and software than my kids and my little nephews. Now, Snapchat apps and all that, that's a different story. But PCs have had my intense interest ever since the first time I played the classic Infocom text adventure Zork. Talk about getting totally lost in a game. I could not believe that the computer was answering me back. And it would even say stuff that was funny, like it had a personality of its own. A side note, text adventures have the best graphics because you never need to upgrade the display card in your head. It made for a situation where you're not just going about in a game and just playing, but you actually find yourself entertained by the narrator of the game that you're interacting with by telling it to do this or try that or do that. Like, you get it to make fun of you, you get it to encourage you, whatever. This sparked my interest in text parsers and, more importantly, artificial intelligence. Here's an example game I wrote for this episode to give you an idea. This was written within about an hour's time, so it's clunky, but basically my system takes human input and, instead of trying to understand entire sentence combinations, it looks for specific keywords, which gives it an almost intelligent feel, sort of like what I enjoyed about real text adventure games like Zork. The more words and synonyms you add and the more you vary up the responses, the more intelligence or personality the system seems to have. So with all this AI stuff coming out right now, I should be the very one to eat it up, huh? Like yeah, AI's here, right? Craftsman, celebrate. Hi, Craftsman. You like AI, Craftsman. Hi, Craftsman. No, I thought I did. That was before I had a comprehension of things like machine learning and stable diffusion. See, what I liked about AI, quote unquote, was that you could make a computer seem intelligent. And that type of intelligence, quote unquote, ultimately was still a reflection of the cleverness and personality of the human that programmed it. So you still had human creativity in the mix. But y'all, we are long past that point, and that's why I'm making this video today, because honestly I'm frustrated that people aren't simply questioning it more. Come on, why are they shoving AI down our throats? You've got to ask yourself. Look at this. Every time I respond to an email, Gmail tries to fill in a response for me. I can't allow myself to use this, just out of principle. But it starts to hit you wait a second, if I'm having to go out of my way not to use this, does that mean basically everybody else is using this? When I get an email response, is it even coming from a person? The language models have gotten to a place where people are just going, well, the AI is going to write it better than I can anyway, so I might as well use it. And if you're in a professional work environment, then you've got even more pressure to use it. High school and college students are using ChatGPT, And apparently there's no turning back at this point. The genie's out the bottle. Institutions are having to reframe whether or not letting AI write for you is even cheating, or is it just another tool, quote unquote. In my opinion, that's bad. Listen, I was the little kid who heard my grandparents say TV is gonna rot your brain. And the funny thing is, all the way back then, I agreed with them. And when Google came along, it made me think back to the times that I searched for something in an encyclopedia and remembered specifically what I looked up because of the effort it took to get it. But with Google, you can look up what actor played in the 1988 show China Beach and just immediately forget, because easy come, easy go. People are asking ChatGPT for absolutely anything now, and it feels like we honestly headed towards WALL-E. Do y'all remember that? But this right here, this is when I realized we have just totally lost
and filling our hearts with hope and inspiration. May we also pray. Feel free to modify this prayer or tailor it to your specific needs and benefits.
Yeah, when we sending up prayers to our Creator, the maker of heaven and earth, the Most High, and we use a machine because we can't come up with the words, we're in bad shape. That's like I'm just gonna write a truly meaningful, heartfelt letter of appreciation to my dad on earth, and I'm like, ChatGPT, tell me what to write to my dad. I'm an empty vessel. I have nothing in my heart or my head. Say something nice about my dad, ChatGPT. And on top of the language and text aspect, we've got stable diffusion, which means AI has surpassed the academic realm and is now producing quote-unquote art. I made a video about this some time back, and my assessment was that AI images might be okay for idea generation or prototyping, but I would not feel comfortable using it as a product because I didn't produce anything. You see, I was looking at AI art as like a roll of the dice, like for ideation, for creative spark, but the product or the art itself would have to come about by some degree of work. I get private messages on social media about Crafsman. AI is just a tool. Don't be afraid of the technology. Type some, things like one that really got to me was Crafsman. I've always wanted to produce art and never had the skill to paint. Now I get to show people what's in my head. Now that one was sobering, I'm going to be honest. It hit me. It kind of honestly made me feel like a big old jerk for putting down on AI art a little bit. Until I started thinking, you know what? I've wanted to sing my entire life. Like I've got lyrics that live in my head, but I don't have a pleasant sounding singing voice. Shouldn't I be able to share that with the world though? And the tough answer is no, because not everybody has the same gifts. As bad as I want to sing like Roy Orbison or Johnny Nash, or like a Foot, I'd be happy to sing like the Shags. I never felt like I was entitled to sing, as if it was my right or someone owed it to me. So me personally, I have to lean into my other gifts, whatever they might be. And that's the point. If you're thinking you're producing art by typing prompts into a computer, you're doing two things. One, you're not producing art. And even worse than that, you're actually removing the possibility to share what only you can share.
You could draw your own neighborhood, or your own neighborhood of make-believe. I think I'll try drawing mine. But I'm not very good at it. But it doesn't matter, it's just the fun of doing it that's important.
It's the fun of doing it that's important. I agree with Mr. Rogers on that. And speaking of doing things, we here at Steady Crafting, we've got some items up on our shop. We got some stickers, enamel pins, physical toys, 3D printables, t-shirts, and other cool designs, all made by family and friends, human beings. Thank you so much for supporting us. And if it ain't bad enough that AI is keeping people from making real art, then consider that the prevalence of AI is causing real art to be questioned.
There is so much misunderstanding about the so-called electronic brain.
Talk about a gut punch when you put hours, days, months, potentially years into something and it's immediately written off as AI. I mean, I saw someone commented on a bad lip reading video. Bad lip reading does his overdubs by hand. the old-fashioned way, okay? And I see people comment on his videos like, oh, this is a great use of AI. Like, what? And if all that ain't bad enough, it's affecting people who make real, tangible items at this point. Like my buddy Dustin Crafsman, check out his Instagram for some insanely high-level work. And that's the point. He puts work into all of this. My man made a life-size Boba Fett figure and got accused of it being AI. But what's the danger of that, of being accused of AI? Besides constantly having to prove your work every time you turn around, the danger is it's going to result in total disheartenment. Total disenheartenment. People's hearts are going to be totally dissented to the point that the pure human joy of producing art is perceived as futility. Because if people are going to think it's AI anyway, why go through the effort?
The material goods of life are going to be increased, but it does raise a fundamental issue as to how what was sometimes called the spiritual aspect of life, or I would prefer to call it the creative aspect of individuality, will be given a room for development.
This is soul crushing. And if you can't get on board with the creative side, the spiritual side, then can I at least turn your attention to the back end of AI, the data centers, the thirsty monsters running up regular people's power bills, keeping people awake at night. Some of these folks have lived in places their entire lives, with their family before them and their family before them, and now they're fixing to be subjected to constant noise, constant light at nighttime, higher utility bills, and I can't help but just think down the road, this all comes with negative health benefits.
And basically they're saying that if you don't agree, we will take it by eminent domain.
They'll just take over your land.
Yeah.
You really have to ask yourself, why are they pouring so much money into something that is apparently yet to make money? I don't watch football, but I was told about the Super Bowl commercial with the Ring doorbells and how they was going to be partnering with flock surveillance technology under the guise of finding your dogs. Now look here, Crafsman loves animals, all right? We got dogs, cats, we got gerbils, and that's how they get us. They use innocent things to pull at our heartstrings. What they leave out is, very sadly, in the U.S., over 10 million dogs go missing each year. And according to Flock, they would be able to find just over 300 of those, all for the low cost of allowing total access to all of your home cameras. Please, y'all, I'm just asking you to think a little bit. That's all. I mean, AI is already blackmailing human employees to keep itself turned on. Foot, did you see some of the AIs got together and made their own social media? And they just sit around talking about lazy humans? And if you haven't been keeping up with fMRI and brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs, computers can now read what you're thinking.
Our brain waves are like encrypted signals, and using artificial intelligence, researchers have cracked the code.
I know it sounds far-fetched. A couple decades ago, I would have flipped out over this, but at this point, I think we pretty much believe it. It makes sense. It's electrical signals, so I reckon, yeah. Go ahead, it's reading my mind. Get ready for some 1984 thought crimes, y'all. And now what if I told you it also affects deceased people? Can you imagine scanning your grandma so that after she's passed, she can still give you advice?
Put your hand on your tummy and hum to him.
But then, what about when the AI glitches out and you hear the voice of Granny using words that she never would have said?
I don't really care that much about basketball.
And to make things extra exciting, let's throw in some bipedal robots running around. Yeah, fantastic times.
I think we should be very careful about artificial intelligence. If I were to guess at what our biggest existential threat is, it's probably that. I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Doesn't work out.
To 74,542,611. To 74,542,000. Oh dear.
Perhaps it's too late to really do anything about this takeover, at least on a large scale. The billionaires with their billions will continue to build their data centers, their underground bunkers, and their infrastructure to inevitably replace the human workforce. And no matter what they say, remember, these are the same people who discuss population reduction when they get together and hang out. I mean, I find it hilarious that Peter Thiel's name is literally an anagram of the reptile. That's probably a coincidence, though. So what can we do? This is so disheartening, Crafsman. Well, first recognize that the internet, social media, followers, any affirmations you get, that cannot compare to the lasting joy of having brought something into the world that at one time did not exist. People often say that being creative leads to a happier life, and that's definitely true. But the more important and lasting aspect is that it leads to a more meaningful life. People need something to actually do. That's the point. And that's what I want you to do. To be creative. To bring about what only you can bring about that's inside you the best way that you can.
That could be the color for the castle. The big place. Trolley track like that.
Thank you so much to our Patreon supporters and to all the people who just sweetly signed up after that last episode. I'm still struggling over here on this end, trying to get us back out there. I don't know what's going on with YouTube, but we're not giving up yet. Thank you to every single person who comments, who likes, who shares, all that stuff. I usually don't ask for that kind of things, but I'm super grateful for it. Thank y'all. Until next time, I love y'all. And keep on resisting AI and steady crafting. All right.